settled, and we'll try to get started within another minute or two. As a reminder, everybody, these are being taped and are being put up on the Florida HFMA YouTube chapter, YouTube channel. So we're going to ask to start that you please shut off your audio, end your video for now. We will have chat questions that Anthony's going to manage for us, and we'll answer anything via chat during the presentation. But we'll also open it up at the end for open questions, dialogue, and certainly at that point in time, if you'd like to come on and join us and share your video and spend a little time with your peers, we welcome you to do that. So Jen, just a reminder, please shut off all audio and video as we go through the presentation. And then we'll open it up for later. Again, this will be on YouTube in the next day or two. So today we're going to go through the first 3 sections of Unit 2, which is all focused on pre-service functions, which are critical to get it right due to the potential negative impact to downstream processes. As a reminder, please ensure that you sign on to your e-learning within HFMA, and please review these 3 modules before next week's call. There is a significant amount of information that we cannot review in its entirety during our sessions. There should be no expectation that just attending these sessions will allow you to pass the CRCR. You do need to do the homework and self-study as well. So in this section, we're going to address the different types of scheduled and unscheduled patients within an acute healthcare facility. And then we'll also talk about non-acute patient types. So a patient's first contact with an acute healthcare facility is either as a scheduled or unscheduled patient, depending on whether immediate care is needed or if the services can be scheduled for a future date or time. Many patients receive healthcare services that are not scheduled ahead of time, including urgent, direct admits, walk-ins for routine labs and x-rays, and newborns. There are several health services available to patients which are not normally provided in acute health hospital setting. These include skilled nursing, hospice care, home health services, clinic services, and durable medical equipment. And we'll spend a little bit more time digging into the details of those. So patients are considered scheduled if the healthcare facility knows that the patient is coming ahead of time. Healthcare facilities normally schedule services that are high dollar and require significant pre-processing to ensure appropriate reimbursement or significant resource coordination. Scheduled patients can be registered as inpatients, outpatients, or recurring series types. Patients are scheduled as inpatient if their level of care meets inpatient acuity criteria. Most facilities use Medicare standards as the guideline for determining inpatient status. Major surgery patients and obstetrical patients are the most commonly scheduled inpatient. Direct admits can be considered scheduled if the physician calls the facility ahead of time to let them know the patient is coming. Patients are scheduled as outpatient if the services they receive do not involve an overnight stay. Patients arrive for service, receive treatment or testing, and go home. Examples are routine diagnostic testing, pulmonary function testing, interventional radiology, ambulatory surgery, and labs. So certain services where the treatment is ongoing are registered as either recurring or series patients, which are considered outpatient. Once registration is completed and charges related to the ongoing treatment are entered on one account for multiple dates of service, they can typically be re-registered on a monthly basis if the treatment duration exceeds 30 days. Examples are therapies, behavioral health, chemotherapy, radiation therapy. The emergency department is the most common source of unscheduled admissions. Patients arrive at the ED seeking care, and if the patient meets the acuity criteria for admission, an order is written to admit the patient. When the patient is admitted, the admission will be considered an emergency admission. Most health plans require a notification of emergency admissions within a specified time period, usually within 24 hours or the next business day. Failure to do so may result in denied days that are very difficult to overturn. Certain types of services, such as routine x-rays and lab tests, are typically provided without the benefit of prior scheduling. They are considered walk-ins. Typically, these services do not require an approval from the health plan, but may require the patient to receive services at a contracted or in-network facility. Observation is used to evaluate patients for possible inpatient admissions, to resolve a medical problem so that the patient may be discharged, for treatment that is expected to last less than 24 hours, or to treat complications following outpatient surgery or procedures beyond the normal recovery time. Remember that the Medicare's 2 midnight rule as it relates to observation patients and inpatient admission. We reviewed that in our last section. So non-acute types. Patients are admitted into skilled nursing facilities or SNFs when they no longer meet the criteria for acute care, but still need an inpatient level of skilled nursing or rehab services. These usually include orthopedic surgical patients who require intense physical therapy and stroke patients who require comprehensive rehabilitation services. Medicare will only cover services in a skilled nursing facility if the patient was transferred after at least a 3-day inpatient stay for a related illness or injury. Hospice care is intended to provide humane and compassionate care for patients who are in the last stages of an incurable disease and have a life expectancy of 6 months or less. Hospice services support the patient with pain relief and symptom management, but the disease is no longer treated. If a hospice patient receiving services under the Medicare program is admitted to the hospital for hospice-related services, the hospice program is billed, not Medicare. Home health services can cover a wide range of healthcare services which can be given in a home for illness or injury, such as physical therapy or speech pathology. And medical equipment is deemed DME if it is intended to be used over and over again. Examples include wheelchairs, hospital beds, and oxygen tanks. And then finally, a clinic is a facility or part of one that is devoted to the diagnosis and treatment of outpatients. So hopefully we've given you some idea of the various types of patients and the importance of scheduling patients to ensure appropriate resources are secured during this section. So our first polling question, which patients are considered scheduled? So we'll give you all a minute or two to put your answers in there, and then we'll go over the answer. Okay, Diane, do we want to show the results, please? There you go, recurring patients. Woo, you guys got that right. Observation patients are normally not scheduled for services. They're usually more emergent types of needs. But patients who receive services where the treatment is ongoing are registered as recurring or series patients and are categorized as scheduled. Services for scheduled patients are typically high dollar and require significant pre-processing to ensure appropriate reimbursement and our significant resource coordination. Good job there, guys. Okay, another question. All right, how many days must a patient be inpatient for Medicare to pay for a skilled nursing facility stay? I'll give you a couple minutes there, a minute or two, sorry. Okay, Diane, we want to do the results. 3. 3 is the correct answer. Patients must be an inpatient for related illness or injury for a minimum of 3 days. A patient cannot be transferred to a SNF. If they are, Medicare will not pay for it if it's less than 3 days. Okay? So certainly 5 and 10 are accurate, right? But the minimum is 3. Okay? All right, moving on to scheduling and the importance of it. We're going to address scheduling processes, including the importance of patient identification, requested services, medical necessity screening, and the Medicare Advanced Beneficiary Notice will be reviewed again as well. Right. Scheduling patients for services allows the facility to prepare for the patient's services by reserving time and obtaining information, equipment, and resources required to provide the service. It also allows the facility to review the appropriateness of the service, screen for managed care requirements, and resolve any financial issues prior to service. Completed daily schedules are used by the service department and the arrival area if the patient does not go directly to the department to complete final preparations for the patient's arrival. All right. So the core concepts we're going to review over the next few slides is the importance of patient identification, scheduling instructions, review and validation, patient reminders, and the requirements for an appropriate order. So the first important step, most important step obviously, is identifying the patient. Health information systems maintain historical databases for every patient who has had services within the healthcare system. Critical patient information, including the patient's full legal name, date of birth, sex, and social security number, is collected and used as patient identifiers. Each patient is assigned a unique number, commonly called the Master Patient Index number, or MPI number, or the Corporate Patient Identification number, or CPI number. Individual episodes of care are linked to the MPI or CPI number to enable the provider to identify all services provided to an individual within the healthcare system. When there is a request for service, the scheduling staff member must confirm the patient's unique identification record to ensure that she or he accesses the correct information in the historical database. Obtaining and confirming accurate patient information is extremely important in order to avoid data errors such as duplicate medical record numbers or choosing the wrong patient. So a physician order is generated becomes the basis for request for service. The contact for the request for service can come from the patient, the physician's office, or a service department within the healthcare facility. If the patient is scheduling the service, he or she is given a written physician order, or the physician office faxes the written order to the scheduling department and is asked to call and schedule the service when it is convenient for the patient. Patients usually schedule services such as ultrasounds, mammograms, stress tests, and therapy. The physician office is typically going to schedule things like surgery cases, catheterizations, and other invasive type procedures. The type of service will determine the scheduling instructions. Instructions to the schedulers range from the basics, such as the amount of time needed for the test, to the complex, when rooms, equipment, and personnel must be coordinated to provide the needed service. Many healthcare organizations use automated scheduling systems and build the scheduling questions in the system. The scheduling system prompts the scheduler to complete required scheduling instructions each time a test or procedure is requested. If an automated scheduling system is not used, and I would be surprised in this day and age if it's not, a binder including all scheduling instructions should be maintained to facilitate the scheduling process and ensure all critical instructions are completed. So one example of a scheduling instruction would be maybe a nuclear medicine procedure. They need to contact the department to order the isotope. They need to reserve the procedure room for X number of minutes. They need to inform the department if the patient is in a wheelchair, and then they need to provide medication instructions based on tests ordered. Okay. So scheduling procedures routinely include patient preparation instructions that must be completed prior to the test or procedure. By providing accurate instructions during the scheduling process, the schedule ensures that the patient will be properly prepared for the service. Examples of commonly used patient instructions include refrain from eating or drinking anything after midnight, take all prescription medications on the day of the test, at least 90 minutes prior to the exam, drink 24 ounces of water, and certainly things like colonoscopies where you need to take some type of prep the day before. Fun. There you go. So review and validation, really, really important, right? Before finalizing the scheduling contact, all components of the scheduling are reviewed and validated. This important step is used to verify that the patient has complete and accurate information, and the listed information should be reviewed as part of the schedule finalization. The patient reminder is a written list of the patient's responsibility and usually includes the same items summarized at the end of the scheduling call, along with any additional instructions provided as part of the access processing services, such as required health plan forms, expected times of service, and payments. It can also include information such as where to park, maps, and location of the service department. The notices are used to reduce the incidence of no-shows or non-compliant with testing instructions. Okay. Tests and services can only be provided with a valid physician order. The few exceptions are requests from Medicare beneficiaries for things like flu vaccines, pneumonia vaccines, or screening mammographies. Initially, verbal orders can be taken as long as they are accepted by qualified staff as defined in the facility's medical staff bylaws, rules, and regulations. All verbal orders must be authenticated by the ordering physician by subsequent written signature, fax signature, or a computer signature. Medicare requires the following data elements to consider a physician order valid: a patient full legal name, date order written, the test or the services that are ordered, the diagnosis, coded diagnosis or narrative description for the test or service, name of the ordering physician or the allied health professional, and then the signature of the physician or the AHP. Orders can be written on a prescription pad, documented on a pre-printed form, electronically generated and transmitted by the physician's office. They must include the physician's address, telephone number, MPI number, patient date of birth, patient sex, social security, and patient demographic. I think we have somebody off mute audio. So if everybody can make sure they're muted, we appreciate that since this is being recorded. Thank you. All right. So reminder, we discussed medical necessity and ABNs in a prior section. It's a very important component of Medicare regulations. So I highly recommend that you clearly understand what the ABN process is, as I believe it will be part of the assessment since it's mentioned multiple times. Now, I have not taken this test, so I can't confirm that, nor could I if I did. It's just, in my humble opinion, ABNs will be part of your assessment process. So Medicare will only pay for tests and services that are deemed reasonable and necessary. Medicare has established guidelines called local coverage determinations, or LCDs, and national coverage determinations, or NCDs, that establishes which diagnosis, signs, or symptoms are payable. So if a test is ordered where an LCD or an NCD exists, there must be documentation of medical necessity in order for Medicare to pay for the test of services. The NCD and the LCD should be built within your EMR system at the time tests are ordered or scheduled. If a test or service is not medically necessary according to the LCD or NCD, a signed advance beneficiary notice, or ABN, must be obtained from the patient. An ABN is not used for inpatient services or for tests that are always excluded from Medicare payments, such as acupuncture, experimental tests, and research testing. Medicare does have other forms for those situations. The purpose of the ABN is to give the patient advance notice that Medicare may not pay for the test or services ordered and the associated costs, which will be billed to the patient. The ABN must be issued to the patient before providing services related to the ABN. Generic, routine, and blanket ABNs are not acceptable except in cases such as frequency limitations where all patients are at risk. Okay. An ABN is not used for inpatient services. The inpatient counterpart to the ABN is the HINN and should be provided to beneficiaries prior to admission, at admission, or at any point during an inpatient stay, if the hospital determines that the care the beneficiary is receiving or is about to receive is not covered. I'll give you a good example that I truly dealt with. So mom or grandma was in the hospital and her family was notified on Friday that the physician put in the order for her to be discharged that day. When the family was contacted, they informed us that they were going away for the weekend and no one would be available to pick up mom until Tuesday. So clearly that is an example of the remaining stay being custodial in nature. But boy, did I just want to smack that family for prioritizing their beach vacation over getting mom home out of the hospital. So good example of not medically necessary. Okay. So key points that we've talked about is patient identification is critical for a lot of reasons as you're going through these processes. And then certainly medical necessity, the establishment of LCDs and NCDs, and then the valid physician order for all tests that need to be provided with very few exceptions. Okay, another polling question. Now you love these guys. Name the guideline that Medicare established to determine which diagnosis, signs, or symptoms are payable. So give you all about a minute to look through that, think about the materials that we went over. Okay, Diane, let's reveal the answers. Thank you. Okay, so a little tricky. Local coverage determination is the correct process, right? Medicare and other health plans will only pay for tests and services that are determined to be reasonable and necessary. So Medicare has established guidelines called local coverage determinations, LCDs, and national coverage determinations, NCDs, which will actually indicate when you have to present the ABN or advanced beneficiary notice to the patient. Okay, moving on. All right, we're going to talk about pre-registration for, and for me, this is a very, very critical component, both for the provider and for the patient. So we're going to talk about the purpose and the process of pre-registration, the information that should be collected during pre-registration, the consequences that an organization may experience due to inaccurate or incorrect patient information, and then we're going to spend some really good time talking about the Medicare secondary payer screening process that's part of patient access. So reasons for pre-registration are pretty plentiful. Pre-registration should be completed for all scheduled patients prior to the arrival of service. Obtaining the patient's demographic and insurance information prior to service is one of the key steps to ensuring accurate and timely billing. A best performance indicator is that 98% of all your scheduled patients should be pre-registered. And a successful pre-registration program also identifies the potential need for financial assistance and provides staff with the opportunity to give patients preparation instructions. Right? So the process of pre-registration ensures that patient access staff will have complete and valid information needed to finalize any remaining pre-access activities, including Medicare secondary payer screening, medical necessity screening, insurance verification, pre-certification authorization, managed care requirement resolution, and then financial education resolution. In my personal opinion, I believe the most important benefits is that patients have taken care of their financial issues and concerns and can focus on their tests or treatments only during the visit to the provider. Treating a patient with the wrong medical history, a patient can have serious adverse reactions to treatment since their allergies and medical conditions are not correctly identified, resulting in serious legal consequences for a provider. If insurance information is wrong, then a patient claim is possibly sent to the wrong health plan. The explanation of benefit statements are sent to the wrong patient, thus resulting in a serious breach of confidentiality and is considered erroneous billing. And incorrect medical services are added to the patient's medical record, potentially perpetuating adverse medical outcomes. So again, getting it right is key both to providers and to patients. Express check-ins should be established for scheduled and pre-registered patients either in a designated area or within the service department. Because pre-service processing has been completed, the only remaining registration steps include confirming positive patient identification, activating the record, placing a patient armband for correct identification during the provision of service, obtaining signatures, and finalizing any financial resolution obligations. For patients with no MPI number, a new medical record will be generated. Required information includes the patient's full legal name. I had to remind my staff multiple times that I really hope that that patient's full legal name is not Bubba. We had quite a few patients registered as Bubba. Maybe that was their name, I don't know. Minimum requirements include gender, date of birth, and additional information can include race, ethnicity, and a social security number. So once the registration process is completed, insurance verification is conducted to ensure the accuracy of the insurance information. Coverage issues are identified and communicated to the patient. This sets the stage for completion of financial education and account resolution based on deductibles, co-insurance, or other coverage limitations. Insurance verification can be completed through electronic inquiry or telephone contact. Most major health insurance payers, including Medicare and Medicaid, offer electronic verification via the ANSI 270-271 transaction sets. Electronic inquiry clearly provides the fastest and most cost-effective and efficient way to complete insurance verification and should be used whenever available. Electronic verification may also be automated through the registration system or initiated manually via the payer's website. Sequencing plans involved in the coordination of benefits are COB situations. So the primary, secondary, and tertiary plans are correctly recorded and billed. And then recording patient out-of-pocket liabilities such as deductibles, co-payments, co-insurance, and coverage limitations allows for a more accurate estimate of the amount the patient may owe, allowing you to increase your time of service collections. Identifying pre-authorization and pre-certification requirements based on the patient's plan, prefix, service, and location are key to ensure you avoid back-end denials that have limited capability to overturn. So for example, I had freestanding radiology services at my location. I also had hospital-based outpatient radiology services at our facility. We were required to get authorization for those performed within the hospital setting because it was considered more costly, but we did not require authorizations for certain tests if they were performed in the lower cost freestanding facility. So rules for authorization can vary widely, and you do need to know those well. So this is another topic that is repeated in a few sections throughout the training. So understanding MSP is really important. Anybody who's worked in patient access will tell you that patients don't really understand this at all. So we really need to do a good screening for them. My dad was always giving his Medicare card when he went to a provider, and he failed to inform them that my mother had an employer group health plan that was primary. So the common reasons when Medicare is the secondary payer is working age. So if a patient or spouse is working, is over the age of 65, and has chosen to take the group health plan, key to keep in mind is they don't have to take it, and it cannot be offered as a supplemental to Medicare as a primary. The employer has more than 20 employees, then the employer group health plan is primary over Medicare. If a patient is under the age of 65, has Medicare through disability, and has an employer group health plan where the employer has more than 100 employees, then the employee group health plan is primary over Medicare. If a patient has Medicare through end-stage renal disease or ESRD and has an employer group health plan, then the employer group health plan is primary during the 30-month coordination period. Once they have met the 30-month coordination period, Medicare then becomes the primary payer. And then finally, if the patient has liability coverage, either due to an auto accident or a workers' compensation premise accident, then the liability coverage must be billed first. If the patient has an accident in their home, then liability would not apply and Medicare remains the primary. Okay. Incomplete pre-registration, I mean, the downstream impacts to providers and to patient is significant. Not being able to contact the patient, collect self-pay amounts. Insurance denials can result from missing invalid subscriber information. Patients ineligible on the date of service. We missed the authorization requirements completely, and the ability to overturn authorization denials is extremely difficult, if not negligible. Out of network status, patient resulting in higher surprised billing, medical necessity failures, and certainly coverage limitation. The increased cost to collect to a provider downstream, trying to rebill, appeal, write-offs, loss of revenue is significant. That's why, for me, I believe pre-registration and the pre-access information that's done is one of the most important things that providers can do to protect their revenue and to help their patients avoid being surprised billing on the back end. So key points, I think I shared you with me that this was a very important aspect of my revenue cycle. For me, making sure that the staff that was there was properly trained, properly paid, and we retained that staff up front because that job is harder, I believe, and people may disagree with me, than if you do it right up front, I don't have as much work to do on the back end. So put your time, your energy, your training, and your money into your patient access staff. Doesn't mean that billing and follow-up is not important, don't get me wrong. This is key, though, to getting everything done efficiently and less costly. Okay? All right. So what is the purpose of insurance verification? Okay, Diane, let's reveal the answers. You got it, guys, right? During the number 4, during the process, coverage issues are identified and communicated to the patient. Insurance verification sets the stage for the completion of financial education and account resolution based on deductibles, co-insurance, or other coverage limitations. Good job. I think we have one more slide, one more polling question. When is Medicare not the secondary payer? Keyword there is not. Okay, Diane? Actually, the correct answer is number 2. Accidents in the home are not covered under liability, and Medicare would be the primary payer. Medicare is the secondary payer when the patient is working and has insurance through the employer with more than 20 employees. Okay? Patients on disability. So the correct answer here is accidents in the home are not covered under liability. Okay? And that's it. I didn't want to cram too much in this section, guys. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 more sections for Unit 2 that we'll go through next week. They didn't have as much material, but I really wanted to make sure that these key critical points we had enough time to go over, and then also give us time for questions related to either the material that we went through, or again, any of the mechanics of certification. Then I'll give Anthony some time to talk about some of our upcoming events that we hope you all join us. So Anthony, any questions in the chat that we need to answer right now?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Okay, because I saw a couple of chat questions out there. Why don't we open it up? Anybody that might want to join us on video, audio, any real-time questions that you all might have related to either the content we went over, tips and tricks on, getting yourself certified, study trips, anything like that. Feel free to come join us and open it up for questions.
Anybody want to give Christine a big round of applause for such a great job?
Great job.
It's my pleasure. I'm really enjoying doing this for the podcast too. So I hope that you're getting something out of it, that you're taking advantage of staying on and doing the courses as well. We'll just say that's really key. I think if you take these, again, we're putting them on recording so you can go out and review them on YouTube. But please go out and do the e-learning so the concepts can be very clear as you go through them.
Yeah, and just a reminder, you can also go on the HFMA website or the YouTube channel, and you can pull everything there from the HFMA Florida YouTube channel for today's sessions and all sessions.
Great. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to talk about some of our upcoming sessions that we have.
Sure. Before that, we did have one quick question come in. Christine, if you could just go over again and guide folks on how to access their e-learning.
Absolutely. So you do have to sign in as an HFMA member. You'll need to sign into the HFMA website, just hfma.org. Create that account for yourself. You'll go and navigate to the section that's called certification. And you're going to want to register for the certification sessions. We've had a few people that have registered in advance or registered maybe even a couple of years or months ago. And you may find out that you go into the certification training and it is expired. If that does happen to you, you do need to contact HFMA National directly. We unfortunately can't fix that for you. So career services at hfma.org. Certainly there's phone numbers you can reach as well. I don't know off the top of my head, but Shirley and the national team will get that corrected for you and extend it. Our hope is that people that are taking these sessions will feel confident and ready to take the assessment. Again, it's 75 minutes, it's 75 questions. I think you have 90 minutes to take it. It's in the facts that we've sent out to you as well. And then once you register for CRCR, the exam, in your, right next to your profile on the website, you'll see a little section that says e-learning. And that's where any of the sessions you sign up for, whether it's the virtual ANIs, the virtual conferences, any of the on-demand webinars, will all be listed in your e-learning section. You can just go in there and launch it. You can resume where you left off. So if you do 3 sections, it'll bring you up to the 4th one. Really easy to navigate. There are no, that's where all the study materials is within the HFMA website. Okay, hopefully that helped. Any other questions, Anthony?
Yeah, a couple more. Are these presentations going to be available?
Yes, they'll be posted on the Florida HFMA website. Links will be sent out to everybody that you can have it. And again, the recording will be available on the Florida HFMA YouTube channel.
Perfect. And then the last one here, as far as content is concerned, they just want to confirm if the patient in fact had an accident in the home, they would send that claim to Medicare.
They would. That is correct. Patient accidents in the home are not considered under liability, and Medicare is the primary. It's only if perhaps I am working or I have an accident in another location where workers' compensation or some other liability may be included. But in the home, Medicare is your primary.
Great. And then if they sign up, I believe it's 1 year, but I might be wrong. Once they sign up and register, how long do they have to take the certification exam?
I think you're right. I think it's about a year or so, maybe even longer, Anthony. I think mine goes to sometime in 2021, and I signed up a few months ago. So it's at least a year, but we are really hoping that by providing these weekly sessions, we're reviewing the content, that it will motivate people that have always said, hey, I want to take CRCR. I just, use this time. Hey, we're all home, right? Or, some of us are getting out more and more, but use this time where you are spending more time at home to focus on getting that certification that can be very important to your career.
Great. And then to kind of piggyback on that, once someone is certified, does this certification need to be renewed? And if so, what's the time frame on that, or how often?
I don't know.
I think it's 2 years.
It's every 2 years you have to take it?
I'm almost certain it's 2 years, but
okay. Your CRCR, Anthony, you know. We'll find that out for you. I'm taking this exam. I'm building the materials, and I'm taking this exam along with you. These are concepts that I've been in Rev Cycle, like I keep on aging myself, for more years than I like to talk about. And these are concepts that I learned quite some time ago, and it's kind of nice to refresh myself. Plus, I've been outside of the provider direct operational aspects for some time now as well. So these day-to-day operational concepts for me, it's a nice refresher and helps me build this material and have these conversations with you every week. But we'll find out for you how long and what that recertification process looks like for CRCR.
So we've got another question on the Medicare and being the primary rule. If you could just touch on that or expand on that just a tad.
So there are conditions where Medicare will not be the primary payer. So as I said, my mom was employed and my dad had Medicare, but since she worked for the New York City Public Library, which clearly had more than 20 employees, my mother's Blue Cross plan was primary to Medicare. My dad never got that concept. If I have Medicare through disability, then the employer group health plan is primary. If I'm under the age of 65 and the employer group health plan has more than 100 employees, and that distinction on the number of employees is very important to know. The third condition is under end-stage renal disease. When a patient is deemed ESRD, it starts the clock on what we call a 30-month coordination period. And if that patient does have an employer group health plan, that employer group health plan is primary to Medicare. Once they've met that 30-day coordination period, Medicare becomes primary because of the acuity of that patient's illness at that point in time. And then the third is auto accidents, workers' compensation, and liability will always be billed as a primary payer. Typically, auto is a perfect example of where you bill it and you basically are getting a zero paid denial because the coverage usually gets out pretty quickly with what you really have in auto. But you have to bill them first to get that basic zero pay denial, and then you can bill Medicare with that. So those are the 4 situations where MSP really needs to be considered.
All right, and then we have one more question, which being someone that's actually taken the test, I can go ahead and take this one if you like, is
Sure.
Are the questions on the test true or false, multiple choice, or fill in the answer? And they are all multiple choice. However, there are questions where you are filling in the blanks, so to speak, on a question, but with multiple choice answers. So I hope that helps. Yeah. Any other questions? You're giving me way too much time to talk. I have you guys signing up for everything. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining. And thank you to Christine, another amazing installment here of this really, really beneficial series, I think. I wish this was around when I was studying up for it. Just guys, again, Anthony Felipe here. I'm the regional director, the South Region Director of Education for Florida HFMA, and happy to kind of bring you up to speed and remind you all about some upcoming events that we have this month in a very action-packed October for us. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we have our Who's Behind the Mask leading the way with Florida HFMA. It's essentially a volunteer engagement and information day. We have a couple of amazing keynote speakers. We have Kelly Nichols, the Chief Network Integration Officer and Vice President of Strategy for Bon Secours Mercy Health. And we also have Tracy Packingham, who's the Director of Chapter Relations for HFMA National. There's going to be several breakout sessions for those of you in Florida that want to get more involved on the different committees and responsibilities and board members, giving a little bit of kind of a peek behind the curtain of how all this happens and how you can get involved to help and become a part of future events and networking opportunities. So that's tomorrow, floridahfma.org/events. Go ahead and sign up. It is free and open to anyone who would like to join and learn a little bit more. And again, that's tomorrow from, I believe, 10:30 to 2:30 p.m. with several sessions in between. So yeah, please sign up. Love to have you. Next one, a little bit more current event related, but on October 22nd at 2 p.m., we have our Decision 2020, the Platforms webinar, where Paul Miller from the National Legislative Committee of National AHAM will be giving us a 1-hour talk on the 2 healthcare platforms for the main candidates in this upcoming presidential election, where he'll dive into the different views on healthcare policy, the CARES Act, ACA, and other really pivotal healthcare related campaign points for both candidates, both Trump and Biden. So again, free, and you will be eligible for a credit hour and a CEU for that. So go on to our website, check out the events page, and go ahead and sign up for that. We'd love to have you. And then the grand finale for the month, we have on October 30th, Thursday, we have our Halloween Spooktacular education and networking event, where we'll have 3 educational sessions, 3-hour-long sessions on different topics. And during lunchtime from 12 to 1, we have our Name That Tune Challenge, which is essentially hosted by our friend DJ Jason, whom will be playing a little bit of Name That Tune music trivia. all through Mentimeter and an interactive system, and it's shaping up to be a really, really fun event, and kind of another installment in these kind of cool virtual events that we're trying to put on here in the COVID remote era. So again, free. We are accepting donations on behalf of Feeding Central Florida. So again, not obligated to do so, but if you can, we'd love for you to donate some. It's going to a really good cause, and 100% of the proceeds are going towards Feeding Central Florida. I guess I speak for everyone on the Florida HFMA board. Thank you. Please feel free to reach out to any of us on the call or any of us board members. Happy to be your tour guide and point you in the right direction of who best to talk to and what areas if you'd like to get more involved. So thanks again, everyone.
I think we're done for the day. I will just say 2 seconds. The best thing I ever did for myself professionally and personally was to get involved with HFMA. So I'll concur with Anthony just said there. Get involved with us. So
Ditto.
okay.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll hopefully see you all next week.